Out in the cold blue straits where Lake Huron meets Lake Michigan, a small limestone island rises from the water. The Anishinaabe called it Mackinac, the place of the great turtle, for its humped silhouette against the horizon. For centuries before any European sail appeared, this was sacred ground. To stand here was to stand at the center of a world. The Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi knew these waters intimately. They came to fish the abundant whitefish runs, to bury their dead, and to gather in council. The island was a meeting place, a crossroads of trade and ceremony. Its name carried the weight of stories older than memory. Then, in the 17th century, came the black-robed missionaries and the voyageurs. French explorers paddled their birch-bark canoes into the straits, drawn by the promise of furs. Jesuit priests followed, building chapels and dreaming of converts. The island watched these strangers arrive, quietly, the way it watched everything. By the 1700s, the straits had become an artery of empire. Beaver pelts moved south and east toward Montreal, then across the ocean to fashionable hats in Paris and London. Mackinac sat at the heart of this commerce, a hinge upon which fortunes turned. Wealth and rivalry gathered around it like fog. The British inherited the region after the French defeat in 1761, and tensions ran high. In 1763, during Pontiac's uprising, a game of lacrosse outside nearby Fort Michilimackinac turned to bloodshed when warriors swept inside. It was a reminder, written in violence, of how fragile foreign control truly was. The land did not belong to those who claimed it. During the American Revolution, the British, fearing attack, moved their fort from the mainland onto the island itself. Brick by brick and timber by timber, they hauled the stronghold up the bluffs. Fort Mackinac rose on the southern heights, its white walls overlooking the harbor. It commanded the straits like a sentinel that never slept. The young United States gained the island by treaty in 1783, though the British lingered until 1796. Then came the War of 1812, and in a single bold night, the British retook the fort without firing a shot. The Americans, caught sleeping, surrendered before dawn. Mackinac changed hands the way the seasons change, quietly, completely. An American attempt to recapture the island in 1814 ended in failure on its northern fields, where men fell among the wildflowers. Only the peace treaty that ended the war finally returned Mackinac to American hands. The fort would never again hear cannon fire in anger. Its battles slipped into the long quiet of history. In peacetime, the fur trade flourished once more. John Jacob Astor's American Fur Company made Mackinac its inland capital, and the island grew rich on pelts and ambition. Warehouses crowded the shoreline, and the harbor filled with the voices of traders, clerks, and native hunters. For a brief season, this small island was an empire of commerce. But fashions change, and the beaver could not last forever. As the fur trade declined, the island turned to the cold harvest of the lakes, fishing for whitefish and lake trout, salting and barreling them for distant markets. The docks smelled of brine and smoke. It was humbler work, but it kept the island alive through lean decades. Then the steamships came, churning across the Great Lakes with cargoes of curious travelers. They had read of the island's clear air and dramatic cliffs, its arched rock and shadowed caves. Mackinac, they discovered, was beautiful in a way that asked to be remembered. A new kind of visitor began to arrive, seeking not profit, but escape. In 1875, the federal government set the island aside as the nation's second national park, just after Yellowstone. Soldiers at the fort became part-time park keepers, tending trails and guarding the wild interior. The island became a refuge, preserved against the rushing modern age. Its quiet was now a thing worth protecting. The Gilded Age dressed Mackinac in finery. The Grand Hotel opened its doors in 1887, its long white porch stretching toward the water like an invitation. Wealthy families from Chicago and Detroit summered here, in cottages perched along the bluffs. The island became a place of parasols, porch swings, and the slow ceremony of leisure. Yet even as the world filled with automobiles, the island made a remarkable choice. In the 1890s, fearing the noise and danger of the new machines, Mackinac banned them outright. The horse and the bicycle would remain its only carriages. In refusing the future, the island held fast to something precious. And so it remains to this day. The clop of hooves still echoes on the streets, and the lilac trees bloom each June as they have for generations. Visitors step off the ferry into a stillness that feels almost like time travel. The 20th century, with all its haste, agreed to wait at the shoreline. Now the fort stands white against the sky, its cannons silent, its history settling like snow. Below it the harbor glitters, and the Grand Hotel keeps its long vigil over the straits. The Great Turtle endures, patient as ever beneath the changing light. It has watched empires rise and fall, and it is watching still. To walk Mackinac's shores is to feel the layered presence of all who came before. The fishers and the missionaries, the soldiers and the traders, the summer families and the Anishinaabe whose island it has always been. They linger in the lilac scent and the lapping water. Here, on this small stone island, the past has simply refused to leave.